So, Jamie, welcome to our new podcast.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much for coming. This is our first podcast and you are our first guest.
Amazing. Feel extremely honoured.
Yeah, so do bear with us because it could be chaotic, if I'm honest, but we'll go with it. So tell us a bit about what you do and why you're here.
So I am chief exec and founder of a local charity called AED Donate, in which you know lots about us. You have a very exciting defib cabinet on your wall that is branded in pink.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's the only one in the country. I must
That's
admit.
what we're aiming for. Innovation.
And
obviously.
we've been going over 11 years now. And I suppose it was a realisation of me being in the fire service, and defibs was a machine on our truck effectively. And I think up until I went on that course, in my head, it was always deemed as an ambulance service thing. It was their sort of responsibility to be there and shock a patient should they need that shock when they're in cardiac arrest. And I think looking at the machine, the device, the concept, and how the community can actually become empowered and the community can literally save a life before the ambulance gets there.
Mm-hmm.
And by putting it into a cabinet, linking it up with the ambulance service, so that's a static ambulance resource, I kind of thought we've got to do something here. We've got to make that change. We've got to take the plunge. We've got to delve in and do it. I think about 8,000 defibs later, we're doing it. And I dread to think how many lives you saved along the way whilst we're at it.
What I was always really interested about whenever we spoke is some of the figures around, say, cardiac at home versus life-saving treatment when it comes to CPR versus defibs. I think it's a great opportunity to share some of those figures because they blow my mind around the impact that defibs can actually have.
Yeah, so there's around 30,000 out-of-hospital cardiac arrests each year. The vast majority of those in the home, over 80% of those in the home, and around about 6 to 8 in the morning as well. So that's when the influx of calls come in. And I think probably one of those aspects is because everyone's waking up and someone doesn't wake up in the home. Actually, the vast majority of our defib coverage isn't anywhere near homes. It's a real struggle. If we take my house, for example, I live on, we always call it a new build estate, but it's 20 years old.
Still new build.
But still new build. But there's no village hall, there's no row of shops, there's no church, there's no phone box, there's nothing. And I think if you think of areas like that, we've got a defib at the end of our drive. It's on a post, it's wired into the garage, it glows yellow at night so everyone can see it. And it's been there. I did tempt fate a couple of weeks ago. I did say, it's never been deployed. And then 3 days later, it was deployed for the very first time after being there for 5 years. But I think we do really struggle in those housing areas because there isn't that infrastructure to go and plonk a defib on the side of a shop or a church or whatever. So, you know, we've got progress to make there, shall we say.
Yeah.
I do often think at home, like where is my nearest one? If something would happen, what would you do? It would be that somebody would have to run and that would take quite some time, or would it be quicker to go in the car, or would the traffic actually make that take longer than running, or how long is it going to take?
And I think the defib landscape changes every single day. Mm-hmm. We install defibs every single day, as other organisations do, corporates do, ambulance services do. There is on our website, if you go to the top of our website, aeddonate.org.uk, just plug that there. If you go to the top, there is a Find My Nearest defib, and it will bring up the nearest 10, and it's a live system. So that is the front face of the circuit, which is where we register all of our devices, and it will bring up the nearest 10 to where you are at that present moment in time.
Wow.
It doesn't give you access codes or anything like that. It's more of a nice to know, where's my nearest one, and then is it available or not? Because sometimes you look at various areas, you type in that postcode and actually 6 out of the 10 aren't available, and we'll come on to managing and maintaining devices probably a little bit later.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. So you're in the fire service, you went through this training. At what point did you go, do you know what, I need to set this up, I need to do this? What was there a turning point? Was there something that happened that you went, I'm going to go and I'm going to set up AED Donate?
I think there was a bit of a light bulb moment, probably during that course. and I always talk about it fairly often, that Stone Tennis Club, just down the road from where we are now, I think to this day that was still the first defib that was installed in stone. And I think that was what kind of sparked the whole, hang on, they've done it, and how did they do it, and looked into it. And I delve into things. I don't just, I wonder how that's happened. And I think one of the huge things for me that became very, very apparent was you can buy a defib. You can buy one off Amazon if you want to buy one. You can buy a cabinet. There were lots of cabinets, which was good, which was bad. What was the best out there? What was the most cost effective out there? Who trains it? Who looks after it governance wise? Who makes sure the pads and batteries are in date? And that doesn't really exist. It does now because we're here, but it doesn't really exist. There's still lots and lots of defibs out there that are on the wall looking pretty great, but they've got flat batteries, out-of-date pads, and they're not registered with the ambulance service.
Yeah, and it's, again, knowing your story, it's scary, some of those figures and some of those, that missing gap that there was, you know, and obviously you guys are filling that gap now.
Absolutely.
Which actually perfectly brings us on to innovation and ideas and creativity, which is what, we want to talk about more, and about what you guys are doing different.
Yeah.
So, you talked about other entities and the parts they play. But what is it that makes you guys different? And what is it, the service you provide or some of the things you offer that really sets you apart within the sector and as a charity?
So I think going back to the point before, you can buy a defib on eBay, Amazon, all these national retailers. There are corporate organisations out there that we term box shifters. So yes, you can buy a defib, they'll send it, absolutely fine, no problem. I think what sets us apart is we offer funding towards sites. We offer fundraising tools and support and guidance, and we will turn up at an event to help. We'll throw some funding towards things. We'll provide a fundraising pack. We also operate something that we have a firm approach to defib. So fund, install, register, maintain. So the funding element is we'll work with you until we're funded. Whether that's your fundraising, whether that's an invoice, whether it's a lease, we will work with you until that funding's in place. We'll then come and install it. And installation, you wouldn't think is a big thing, but it is. There's so many sites out there that look great, but they're behind a locked gate, or it's great during the day, but if something happens at night, someone's got to climb the gates. And this is a particular issue we see around schools, sort of town parks and things like that. The gates close when it goes dark, and you actually can't get to it. So ensure it's installed correctly, correct height, wired in electrically. There are so many defibs again out there that just have a box on the wall, no heater plugged in, which is then just going to provide unnecessary drain on that defib, freeze the pads, etc., etc. So we fund, install. Next one is register. So we ensure that all of our devices are registered on the circuit, so that each ambulance service can see that device at point of installation. We don't do it 3 days later. We don't do it a week later. As that installer arrives on site, that site is registered and it's available to that community, because the important bit's there. It might not be on the wall, but the defib is there. And then maintenance after that. Maintenance is crucial, because you don't want to be running to a defib and then you get there, it's got a flat battery, it's got a flat pad, or it's not available because it's been deployed to a previous incident and not made available again. So we do hound our communities a little bit to make sure our availability is, we sit about 97% on the circuit, which is by far higher than the national average.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I think it sounds like what you're saying is, traditionally you would say go on buy a defib online, which actually we started when we installed our defib. The first place I went was actually Amazon.
Yeah.
And then I heard about you guys. So I've had the same experience of going, okay, I'll look here, and then spoke to you, and you obviously do the end-to-end service. So is it fair to say that you're kind of one of the only entities across the country that offer that full end-to-end, and then beyond that? I think from my understanding that.
Yeah, Absolutely, yes, is the answer to that. We quite often say, just picking up the phone or starting that fundraising journey, or even the defib on the wall, that is just the start of the journey. Actually, we're going to hold your hand forever and ever and ever.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we don't want to see any community unsupported or not available, or, you know, even down to the point, you know, there's supply chain issues at the moment with a particular device, and we don't want our sites to be offline, so we've provided loan units. I think it's that going extra, going above and beyond to make sure that those sites are live and that they're covered.
From a technology point of view, obviously you said that you can see when one's been deployed and things like that. Is there like a system that you had made bespoke, or is there how do you know when one's been used and when something needs replacing?
So back in the day, during the war, but back in the day, you would have each ambulance service would work very, very differently. So West Midlands Ambulance, which is where we're based, you would handwrite a form, scan it, and send it to them to add to the ambulance database. Northwest, for example, so just over the border, you would fill out an online form. Other ambulance services would work totally different. And then the British Heart Foundation developed a system called the Circuit, which is the National Defibrillator Database.
Mm-hmm.
That is the database. There's lots of apps out there. There's lots of websites that show you where defibs are, where people have installed. There's stuff on Google. But the National Defibrillator Database is the only database that is true,
cool,
live. That's the one to go for. We quite often get calls to say, "Oh, we can't see our defib on the database. Can you help?" And we find out that they've gone to sort of a third-party website, and that's why it's not showing. So the Circuit is a direct link to each of the ambulance trusts up and down the land. And as soon as we register that defib on that location, plotted on the map, codes, etc., all inputted, the ambulance call takers can see that instantly their end. And vice versa, when it's deployed, if they send someone to go and get it, they tick a box to say they've sent someone to go and get it, and then it removes it from service until we know a couple of things. One, has it been used? Two, has it not even left the cabinet and we can make it live again? Or three, has it gone walkabout because it's gone to an incident, it's gone with the ambulance crew and finally finds its way back to the site a couple of days later.
Didn't you do a campaign around getting people to flag defibs that they saw to check if on the circuit?
Yes.
You did?
Yeah,
do you want to talk a bit more about that? Because that was a really pioneering campaign, talking about kind of that awareness of what defibs do, but actually how as you as an individual can help this whole network.
It's one of those, I think I'm probably wired up a little bit differently. So I will be on holiday and I'll see a defib and, it's not registered, and it goes on the list and we make some inquiries when we're back at the office.
It's like when I see a sheep on holiday.
It's very much so, yeah. And actually, I've sent you pictures of sheep when I've been on holiday.
I'm going to start sending you pictures of defibs, I think.
Please do. But I think it's just that awareness out there. If you know there's a defib in your community, if you know there's one where you work, if you know there's one at your child's school or your dance club or whatever, go onto our website, click the link at the top, find my nearest defib. And if it isn't there, let us know and we will do the hard work and we'll find out who looks after it.
Do you want to give your website address again?
aeddonate.org.uk. It's a brand new website yesterday as well. So
excellent. People should be checking that out, shouldn't they?
Yeah,
exactly.
Absolutely.
Exactly. So, I mean, we found this, haven't we? As a pioneer doing something differently in the sector, there's always challenges to what you do. And I think we've seen it, and we know, one of the reasons for doing this podcast was to talk about innovation and the good stuff about it, but also share those battles that we've all probably had, challenging the status quo. So what have you had over the years? What kind of pushback or what kind of challenges or, let's say, boulders in the road that you've had to kind of navigate?
I think the huge or the biggest pushback is probably education. You see things online all the time. You read social media. No, you don't do things like that. I was reading a post yesterday of a local first responder group actually saying, not quite local, but West Midlands, saying defib finder isn't the site to go to. It's not the correct one. And it's that whole misinformation, isn't it? I think because we're tried and tested, the firm approach works, the training works, everything to do with that works. We've got that tried and tested system that is there. People, we are the experts, and you know, it's quite a bold word to use, isn't it? Being an expert, just as you're experts in packaging.
Yeah.
But we are
that.
the experts, and I think it's just community education that oh no, we've done it right. Well, actually you haven't, because it's not on the ambulance database, or your pads are out of date, or your cabinet's rusty or not wired in. We are the experts, and we do defibs day in, day out. It's very much like us coming to you guys and saying, oh no, we do packaging like this, and you'd be like, well, hang on. We've done that because it's tried and tested. And does it sound very familiar?
It's funny, isn't it,
Yeah.
actually, how it doesn't matter what kind of entity you are, what sector you're in, innovation, creativity seems to have the same challenges. And we've had it with education, haven't we? Educating people. You know, sometimes misinformation, misinformation, really. You're battling that. You know, and
that's where the science really comes in, though, isn't it? So you can say that we've done all of this work before. We have the information, we have the data, we can prove that what we're saying and what we're doing is the correct way to do it, and this works best.
Yeah.
But it's also getting in front of the right people, isn't it? We do a lot of stuff down in Parliament through our APPG for defibs. It's always a tongue twister. APPG, all party parliamentary group.
Nice.
For defibs, and I think it's getting, you know, even people at those meetings come in and talk about, oh, we'll do this, or the government have done that, and actually, why has I probably can't say this, we might have to cut this bit out, but why has a stationery firm rolled out a defib to every single school in the country? There's 11,000 missing at the moment, or not registered at the moment, whereas if they'd have used us, it would have been done now, registered, 20,000 live, maintained, looked after. But a stationery firm's done it. It's just frustrating.
And what do you think that is, you know, aside from kind of some of the drivers behind these decisions, do you think that's about education of the people making the decision? That actually, okay, it's one thing to place a defib, but actually the part that you guys have identified in what you're doing is it's not just about placing it. That's the easy bit. That's the bit. Anyone in this room, anyone anywhere can go buy a defib and have it. But the difficulty is, how do you then make sure it's still working? People can access it. It's community. Because I think the thing that I really like when we've worked with you is the first thing you asked me is, do you want it in-house or do you want it for the community?
Yeah.
And it's that extra thought that actually we were installing it. Well, we were installing it because I saw a video on Facebook that struck me that it isn't just people who are over a certain age that have cardiac arrest. It can be anyone. And we'll really talk about that a little bit later, because I know there's some stories to share. But we could have had it for our team in-house, or we could reach a wider community of people. And I think that's a really important element of what you guys offer. And that innovation creative piece that you've gone, most people just see, I'll put it in my house, or I'll put it in my car, or I'll put it in the school. What they don't see is the wider community that they could reach.
Yeah.
And I feel like that service that you offer is something that is different. I don't think we've come across it even when I was looking at defibs, there wasn't really anything else out there that was offering that.
No.
And you reach nationally, don't you? So
we do.
Across the country.
So lowest defib there's lots, 40 plus across Guernsey.
Oh, well.
Highest is on the lighthouse at the Shetland Islands.
And the other thing that strikes me about you guys is that you work with community and corporate.
Yes.
So do you talk a little bit about that and the difference between the two, actually, you know, working with communities, working with a corporate, the differences as well?
So I think if you look at corporates, for example, I'll talk Toby Carvery. Toby Carvery is a really good one. So, and again, it comes to that expertise, doesn't it? We're the defib experts. We'll ensure the Toby Carvery defibs up and down the country are live, available in their restaurant to their customers when their customers are there, and to the wider community. You know, they are community accessible. I think the key thing here is their main focus is selling roast dinners That's their focus. That's their
Making me
primary
hungry
aim.
now, Jamie.
I know, sorry.
I'm so hungry. It's still morning as well.
But that is their primary aim. And I think what's been really nice is they've come to us and said, you guys do defibs and you do it really well. So we want defibs in our restaurant, in our restaurants. Let's do it. And we did it. And Toby, they're very busy sites, particularly on a Sunday afternoon. But we fully manage that service for them. We liaise with each restaurant if one's been deployed or used. They have sort of a separate fund if sites are used. So there's no who's buying the pads, who's doing this, who's doing that. We just send the pads out same day with them next day, back live again as soon as possible. It isn't really any different to the community and how we work with them and how we support them. It's just more quantity. It's just a bigger, portfolio to work with.
Yeah, and I think I guess it comes back to it doesn't matter where that defib's placed. It's making sure it's serviced. It's making sure it's got all the support around it, and it's literally saving lives.
Yeah,
and it doesn't matter whether it's in a pub, it's accessible in a school, or it's in someone's home and people can reach it, or on someone's home.
Anywhere.
Reach it doesn't matter.
Absolutely anywhere.
Yeah.
We've done cars, we've done buses, we've done trains, anything in between. Where there's people, there should be a defib.
Yeah, absolutely. So touching on that community point, obviously you are charity, which I often think people talk about charities as, charity is different to business. Charities are business, but harder. That's the way I see charities.
Yeah.
You can do business, but you also have all of your funding channels. You've got, the way you keep going. So, massive respect from running this entity is doing really well, but also the fact that running a charity isn't easy. I think, we can talk about that maybe in a bit, but as your reach, what else are you doing as a charity in terms of that community engagement, retail, that kind of thing?
Yeah, so we've got the community event side and education side. So any event we can go to and talk defibs, spout defibs, I call it. Random people from, I was just delivering a training session on Monday to a squirrels group, which is part of scouting. So, one had just turned 4 the week before. So, they're really, really little, talking, at the other end of the equation. Weekend before, my wife Rachel was out delivering training session with Julie to a WI group. So we will talk to anybody and tailor that training and education to any age, whether they're just turned 4 or whether they're 84, and anyone in between. We've also got a retail side, so we have 4 charity shops and a donation centre. We are looking for more shops to open in the near future. And I think the whole charity shop thing, one, raises funds. There's surplus in there to pile into our community fund, which supports communities that aren't as fortunate as other communities when it comes to pads, batteries, maintaining their sites with consumables should they need that. But it's also got that huge sustainability focus, zero landfill. We are zero landfill. We do not landfill anything. If there's anything that we can recycle, resell, repurpose, that will go out to our charity stores. And you'd be really surprised. We were having this discussion the other day at a meeting that people think that charity is for the older generation.
Mm-hmm.
It really isn't.
No.
We get a whole demographic of people through our doors to either upcycle a bit of furniture or turn a pair of trousers into a handbag, or they just like the coat in the window, so they buy the coat in the window and they use it as a coat should be used. So yeah, we've got our retail element as well.
Yeah, and I think the shops, see, retail is quite a challenge at the moment.
Huge challenge.
The high street, we constantly see names falling off the high street. But I think if you think of the companies that have stuck at it and they've continued to change, the ones that are still in, are always evolving, aren't they?
Yes.
I think you guys have evolved recently, I believe, into having a furniture shop as well. So that thing of always innovating, always thinking, always evolving. Talk a bit more about the reality of setting up a new shop in a different, obviously clothes one thing, but selling furniture, bigger items.
Yeah.
Talk through kind of the challenges of that.
I think the challenge is, it's always a challenge to open a store because we're small, because we're a small team. We're family operated, as it were, a husband and wife team. It's us that opens those stores. We don't get shop fitters in. We don't have a huge budget to do anything. It's Rachel on the end of a paintbrush and me wiring in a till system or whatever. So there's always a challenge of setting up because it is resource intense, and it's pulling guys out of the office to do this or fetch that, or down to IKEA to flat pack furniture or whatever. I think the huge challenges at the moment is the high street. It's really tough out there. We've actually seen growth in our retail over the past 12 months. Slight growth, but growth, which again is always welcome, particularly with cost of living and things going up at the same time. But what we also find in our stores is we've got such a lovely following that people some people come in every single day because our stock, we don't get pallets of stock and it's all lovely and you put it on the shelf. It's totally different every single day. And people come in and look every single day and support us every single day. So I think, without that community element, we wouldn't have stores. What is also nice is when we opened up our first store before COVID, it was all a bit doom and gloom. It was all, oh no. We actually hashtagged it on our socials. Not another charity shop. Whereas when we open them now, it's actually quite the opposite. It used to be sort of 10% good, 90% bad. It's completely turned.
Platforms like Vinted and things like that have completely changed the game, haven't they?
Yeah,
for charity shopping and second-hand shopping.
And people come in and buy our items, and they quite clearly say, well, they're going to put it on Vinted, and that's kind of what they do.
Yeah.
So it's not only supporting us, but it's supporting them as well. We are bringing Vinted into the fold.
Okay, cool.
So in October, we'll be launching our first Vinted store, operated out of one of our shops, and then as that grows, we haven't got that far. We'll see what happens, but I expect that to grow.
Yeah, sounds great.
Because there's more people doing it. As my wife knows, because I'm always at a locker getting something new from Vinted.
I didn't realise they sell Playmobil on Vinted.
They sell everything on Vinted.
I thought it was just clothes, and then suddenly my sister said, "Oh, they sell Playmobil." Okay, I did not know
there
this.
You go.
So there we go.
Yeah,
that's a whole other topic. But on that point though, I'm aware that you're always evolving your shops. So going back to the creativity, you've done some revamps recently, and you're looking at Vinted. So in terms of that keeping fresh, just give us some examples, if you want to share your secrets, some examples of some of those revamps, that kind of thought pattern, that creative thought pattern behind how do we keep our shops fresh? And to your previous point around, the negative versus, the negative views on charity shops, how you keep it so people keep coming back. You've got your supporters, but, getting people to feel good in the shop or
I think it's atmosphere. The whole charity shop world has that, they smell a bit, don't they? So we don't do that. We're always told we smell nice, which is good. Being clean, fresh stock out there. There's nothing worse than going into a shop and it's the same stuff. I was here 3 weeks ago and nothing's changed.
Do you sell jigsaws?
We sell jigsaws.
Okay, that's just always my thought for the charity shop. Jigsaws, I don't know why.
Jigsaws fly.
I know. I think because I've bought loads from charity shops. Sorry, changing subject, but it
And that's the whole thing, isn't it? If you can get a cheap jigsaw, you do it. That's the weekend sort of thing done.
It's done.
Can't do it again. Go and donate it back and buy a new one. And there does seem to be a turnover of jigsaws. But anyway, less jigsaws. Being fresh, up to date. And we also don't sell bought-in goods. So lots of charity shops out there, you can have some merchandise or you can have a cup with a logo on it, or we don't do any of that. 100% of items in our stores are completely donated.
Yeah. So there's other ways, isn't there, that charities can kind of raise a bit more funds around things like gift aid?
Yeah. Gift aid is really important, and you can raise so much more money with that. So, for example, for the people that don't know gift aid, Rosie doesn't work. She doesn't pay tax.
Sure, it's very hard though, just for the record.
Probably pays lots of tax. But Rosie doesn't work, doesn't pay any tax. Josie works, pays loads of tax. So if Rosie.
It's very confusing.
If Rosie came in with a bag of items, you couldn't gift aid that. But if you came in with a bag of items, you could gift aid it because you're a taxpayer. Now, for easy maths for Jamie, it's 25p per pound extra. So if you brought a bag of items in, we sold one of those items, you effectively get your very own barcode assigned to your products. When that's scanned through the till, say it's £1, we get 25p back from the government for nothing.
So
it's really, really important.
And I know the reason I bring that up though is around that creativity side again, that I know that's been something that people aren't so much aware of, especially when donating.
Yeah.
And how much value that has to a charity.
Yeah, it's huge.
But also the creative ways you've put in order to get people to engage with that. So whether it's the ways you've shaped your shops or the things you've put into the shops to drive that. And that can be a massive value, can't it?
Yeah, huge value. And it's that whole money for nothing. It's of course it's not. There's administration and stuff that goes in behind. But to put a claim in and then that comes in and could buy 10 defibs just by scanning a different barcode and having a chat around gift aid. But again, it comes back to that, what we discussed earlier, that education piece of lots of people say, oh, I don't pay tax, I'm on a pension, but actually lots of pensions you pay tax on. So it's having that conversation and talking about it really.
Yeah, definitely. So the most important thing I think about especially charity entities or meshing as well is the stories of those that you have actually helped with what you do. I know a few of them, but it would be great to hear some of the examples of the importance of that end-to-end setup that you guys have created.
Yeah.
And some stories, actual real life stories of the impact that you've had.
So I've probably got a few stories, and unfortunately not every defib works. It's all about what rhythm the patient's heart's in. It's all about how long they've been in cardiac arrest. Time is a real critical factor. For every minute that passes, the chance of survival decreases by 10 to 14%. So you've not got long to get that defib. Start your CPR. And again, that's another, let's talk about that. If you're on your own, you won't be sent to get a defib because the important part is to do CPR, keep that blood pumping around the body until further help arrives. If there's two of you, one would start CPR. If there's a defib nearby, the ambulance service would provide you the code or tell you where it is, and then you would go and get that and bring that defib back, and then use that defib and CPR in tandem. We've got lots of stories, sad stories, good stories, and anything in between. And I think it's one of these points to highlight. Again, it doesn't always work. The patient perhaps wasn't in that correct rhythm for a defib, for example. But then we've also got lots of stories where it has worked. And you've met one of our survivors, Josie. Actually, his dad's now on our trustee board, and Jack's our ambassador. But I'll talk about Jack because Jack's he's not an ordinary cardiac arrest patient. He was 19 at the time. It tends to be, again, it happens to anyone, but in terms of probability, it tends to be someone older. So Jack was playing football, had a cardiac arrest on the pitch, literally about 40 metres away from our defibrillators. They dialed 999. Somebody actually got to our cabinet, and I don't think they kind of linked up with the person dialing 999 and rang our number. And we offer, again, part of the support, we offer a 24-hour service. So we will always answer the telephone no matter what time of day it is. 6:20 last week in the morning. That was a wake-up call. But we're always there to answer the phone. We provided the code for Jack's defib. They got the defib out. We sort of stayed on the line for a little bit and assisted. And then a couple of hours later, I had again another out-of-hours call from Jack's football coach to say it had worked. And helicopter came. He was helicoptered to hospital, air ambulance to hospital. And literally, so this happened on the Saturday. He was put in an induced coma, came out of his coma on the Tuesday. had a defib implanted into his chest, so he's got his own personal defib inside his chest. And he was home on the Saturday. That's 7 days. And on the Tuesday after, I drove down to Coventry and had a coffee with him and his dad.
Mm-hmm.
And we do it to help anyone, but it's such a warm feeling to have that. It's like you just don't get better than that. You do not get better than that.
It's one of those stories, isn't it? And it's reality. That
really
actually the age doesn't matter. And I think working with you guys, that's something I've come to realise, that it's not, it's indiscriminate, really.
Yeah.
It's anyone. So just going back to the innovation and what you guys offer, in that scenario, in reality, had you A, not been on the phone, B, that defib not been available on the setup that you've talked about, encouraging people to get it onto the network, in reality, that would have been, Jack wouldn't be here anymore, would he, without that service?
No.
So I think it's that part, when you talk about innovations having an impact, ideas and creativity and people being open to it. That's, again, one of the reasons really for this podcast, is to talk about, your story. That's an absolutely amazing story in terms of showing, actually, we're talking about shipping, something in a box, but you're talking about saving lives, and how if we try and stifle creativity or innovation, those kind of things will never happen. So, in reality, without you guys doing that service, it wouldn't have happened, would it?
They could have bought one on, and again, you don't know how genned up people are. They could have bought one on Amazon, and they could have gone, do you know what, we need to register this, and looked after it. They might not have looked after it. You don't know. But we were on the end of the phone. It was textbook. It was registered. That isn't the process. The process is dial 999. They'll give you the code, and you should go and get it. But obviously there was a lot going on that day across a football field as well. But we answered it, and he's here to tell the tale.
And that aftercare, I'm aware as well, without going too much into the detail, I'm aware that with a defib, it needs to be looked after 3, 4, 5 years, 10 years in advance, in following. So you guys provide the pads, you provide all the service after that, don't you?
Josie's ordered hers this week.
Yeah, I'm ordering my pads. Yeah.
There's a long-standing joke on that, but we won't go into it now. But Josie's ordered the pads.
So yeah, and then what kind of engagement do you have from the local community then? Not only just your supporters, but nationally you've won a King's Award.
We have.
So the recognition, by royalty.
Yeah.
What kind of response do you get when you tell your story? Engagement with the local community. You get quite a lot of support or do you get people who still don't necessarily understand, especially your service element and that innovation element? They go, I don't understand why you do that. You just sell the defib. Again, why do you do the service?
It comes to education, and I say all the time to anyone that I talk to, if I could just have 5 minutes with everybody to discuss what we do, people would buy into it. But still, people in town now will come and say, "Oh, I didn't know who you were, or I didn't know you were here, or I didn't know we could buy consumables. We've ordered somewhere else." Apart from plastering it in big green lights across the town, it's a struggle. But we'll keep banging the drum, keep promoting what we're doing, and yeah, we do get support. It's that whole people that have really bought in, but it's getting more people to understand what we do and what actual support we do provide to the community as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And Rosie and I have chatted quite a lot about what the term innovation and creativity mean to us, both as a person, but also as a company. Clearly, you guys are always innovating, and creativity is something that I know you have throughout. Even things like the firm, your firm approach is that you've created that, and that's something you guys are driving. But for you personally, what does innovation mean to you, or creativity? Is it something that you find important? Is it something that you kind of what's it mean to you?
I think innovation, creativity for us is change. You can't stay with the status quo. You've got to sounds old-fashioned, and
Mm-hmm.
but you can't just do what you've always done. If you look back at when we first started, because of our buying power, because of the way we've developed things, because of the equipment we now use, we're actually £600 cheaper per campaign than when we started 11 years ago. Whereas you're probably more expensive than you were when you started, however many years ago you were. It's not the norm for things to come down. So
We're actually very cost effective, Jamie.
well, but you know what I mean.
Okay, I know, I'm joking. You know what I mean.
You absolutely are. But that's not the way of the world, is it? Everything goes up, whereas actually we've reduced. We don't supply the same cabinet that we supplied back in the day. I was actually, when I was talking to you in the meeting room just out here, the defib across the road from here was our very, very, very first one. But that's got a new cabinet now because things have changed, things have developed, things have moved on. So I think for us it's changing things, it's listening to customers, it's looking at what's out there on the market, it's developing things that makes things easier for the community, for us, so we can provide more and more at less cost and more support.
Yeah, and I think people often think that innovation is based on a product, that where, or a service where they'll say, oh, this is new idea in, I don't know, cups or whatever, handles on the other way or something.
Yeah.
That's innovation. But actually,
right-handed mug.
Yeah.
Left-handed mug.
Yeah, actually, but I think from the example you've just given, actually, it's about not only innovation as the product or the service, but actually as a business. What are you doing, or as a charity, or as a business, as we said? What are you doing to drive forward different things to make your product better, or your offering better, or to improve X amount about the entity? And I think that's really a great example. So, what kind of things then on that point, with in terms of your bringing your prices down, what kind of things have you done to do that over the time?
So again, it's a couple of things. Defibs on the market. Defibs have changed.
Yeah.
There's back in the day when we first started, we used the G3 model of the cardiac science device. Still the best device out there, but you can't get it anymore. There's lots and lots of different devices out there on the market. If you look at cabinets, we went through a metal cabinet, we went through a different heater, we went through a different lock, but actually now we're polycarbonate, so material costs are cheaper. But the cabinet's stronger, it doesn't rust, it's, all these extra things. You can upgrade it with a vinyl if you wanted to change a name or whatever. I think when you look at that in terms of innovation in general, I think if you look back to where we were and where we are now, so much has changed. And I think it's going back to that point before. You can't just stick with what you used to do. Back then it was the best, and we will always strive to deliver the best and be the best. But actually now there's better things, and we have to move with those times and ensure that our communities are getting the best.
What makes a good defib? Like, what you said, it's the best in the market, but what's the difference in the different defibs? Like, this one's really good, this one goes really fast, or whatever. What?
It's exactly that. So some devices will shock quicker than others, so they'll analyse the rhythm quicker, or they can analyse the rhythm whilst you're doing CPR. Some are cheaper, some are more expensive, some the consumables last longer than others, so the cost of running it further on is different. Some have Wi-Fi, some have cellular, so they can report back their status check literally on an email to you, so you know your defib's working. So the issue we've got with that is some of your more technical devices are way up here on the price list, and some of your more bog standard defibs, hate the phrase, are down here on the price list. And I think it's working with, you might get a train company that have the best one, and it auto emails their status check because their trains could be anywhere in the country and someone centrally manages that. But actually you might also have a food bank in Stoke-on-Trent which can't afford that, but actually they can operate at this level.
Yeah, and they kind of do the same thing, just in slightly more efficiently, maybe.
I use the phrase all the time, a shock is a shock.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The best defib is the one in your hand that works. if that's what you've got, that's what you've got.
So just touching upon the firm approach, talk us through that a bit more in terms of why that's important, because that's something you guys have created.
It is.
Go back to creativity. That's something I believe you created as a education piece, but also an engagement piece. So talk us through that a bit, because obviously more than I do.
So firm approach was, I can't claim any responsibility for firm. It was actually Rachel, Mrs. R. And we were talking all the time about how we just need something that's recognised. We've actually trademarked firm because we think it's really important. It's the way forward. We think it should be nationally recognised that everyone adopts firm, the firm approach. So firm is fund, install, register, maintain, and we believe that those 4 key elements will have a working defib at the end of it, whether it's out there and it's been out there for 10 years and you just adopt it now, or whether it's a brand new site and we are installing it now. It doesn't really matter. So the fund can tick lots of different boxes. So that could fund the initial defib, it could fund the consumables, it could fund a new cabinet if it needs one, it can fund the power supply to power the defib cabinet. The install part, again, as we talked earlier, is really important because lots of people will install them behind locked gates or inside a building when actually they've got fund available to make it external or whatever. The next 2 key points, register and maintain, for me it's ones I talk about all the time. So the funding and the install bit quite often isn't really the issue. The funding bit can be sometimes, but that really isn't the issue. What you see out there on sites that we've not supported or ones you drive past on holiday or whatever is one of the last 2 points is actually missed. So it's funded, it's installed, it's registered. Great. But actually it's not maintained. So someone's sent to it because it's registered. Defib battery's flat, pads are flat. It's not going to work. Or they do the opposite. They fund it, they install it, and they maintain it really well.
But no
gold standard, but no one can find it because it's not on the register. So that's why we did firm, because we believe that there's still sites out there now that we've not been involved in. Every site we've installed is on the circuit. But it's really, really key that those 4 elements effectively get your best results at the end.
Yeah, and that's why I think, again, going back to that creative thinking, is I know that's something that you guys have been driving, and you've created something to get the message out. And as you say, it's just so simple, but it's not. It's so
really
simple when you
is.
say it, isn't it? But actually, you've got to have the mind that goes, right, we're going to do this. We're going to do it a bit differently. This is how we're going to, this is how we're going to promote it.
And it literally was that light bulb moment. I think Rach has lots of thoughts when she's driving or in the shower, but this one was a driving one. And she rang me and said, I've come up with an idea, and I think we need to we install them, we fund them, we maintain them, and we register them. And I jotted it down. And I was like, so we have the firm approach to defibs then. And it literally, I think on that 30-second phone call, we were like, that's it. That's all we need to do. And if we've got the firm approach by moving the jumbled up letters around, that is actually the process, the flow, the correct flow. But actually, it's a nice, easy thing to remember as well.
Shows, doesn't it? Just kind of one conversation can just like spark something.
Yeah.
And it's probably been there for a while.
Yes.
Like it's been like mulling, and suddenly someone says something, you're like, that's absolutely it.
And it literally was the light bulb moment. But I can't take any credit.
It was all Rachel.
She will watch this.
Yeah,
so
well
okay, done,
that's
Rachel.
good. Yeah, I mean, but that is the thing, though. I think that makes a difference between the creative entities and the ones who aren't. Is you have the idea and you're open to trying it and installing it, or installing it or implementing it. And I think that potentially is the difference around certain entities where you've got the creative entities and the ones that aren't. Where the ones that aren't will say, we'll just stick with status quo, we'll continue. Whereas the ones that are more creative and innovative and think a bit more kind of that kind of way is they're willing for it to fail. They're willing to go, do you know what, we'll give this a go. And actually,
we're very much like that. If we come up with an idea, we do it. And if it doesn't work, we either don't do it, we tweak it, but we do it.
Yeah. What next for AED Donate?
Ooh, good question. There's a few things in the pipeline. So more retail. Retail is really successful for us, which seems strange saying because of the state of the high streets, but we do have that real good support. And it goes back to the comment earlier. Actually, people really like what we do in terms of retail. People travel far and wide to come and support us. If you look at our gift aid record, the addresses, and you're like, you're nowhere near where we are. And I was, people do travel far and wide. We are going to look more in education and community side. It is somewhere we're fully aware that we want to do more. We are going to be looking in the very, very near future. We're in very early talks, but to provide a cadet scheme, so next generation of young lifesavers. So we will, we're going to convert a spare room that we've got in our donation centre into a bit of an education area where the kids can come in one night a week and learn all sorts of life skills. Obviously, defibs will always be number one for us. Defibs, first aid, but also integrating them into the community to work with us to support our fundraising efforts, to be young ambassadors of the organisation. But we'll go and do some other weird and wonderful things, like we will probably ask to come and see Wool Call and give them a tour one evening of what you do, because it's what you guys do is completely amazing, using that resource that would normally just go to waste, but actually you're turning it into a real cost effective but also eco-friendly, all the things that you do in terms of packaging. We will want to teach them things like how to cook a meal, how to our partnership with Leap Building Society, we'll get them in. Can you talk financial management? What does applying for a mortgage look like? How does VAT work? All these things that you don't get in the general standard education setting. But of course, there will still be always a primary focus to doing defibs and life-saving stuff with them.
I think it was a figure that Rachel told me. Rachel should take credit for this as well. Is around the age of people who, when they learn first aid, and that education piece she's talking about, educating kind of younger people. Was it that most people aren't at school when they learn first aid? They're much older, aren't they? Is that right?
There's a commitment from the government that people will learn first aid at school or CPR.
So is that quite recent though?
Quite recent.
Yeah.
It's not happening the way it should. It should happen in all secondary schools. We've said to our eldest son, when have you learnt CPR and defib at school? Never done it. You speak to other schools, they're very on it. You speak to others, not at all.
But you were saying about, so showing a 4-year-old, for example, if you can normalise, because some of the fear with defibs is, I don't know how to use it, how do you CPR? Yeah. So if you learn it from 4, and I think that was something that we spoke about previously, around education really young, because then it becomes entrenched, rather than waiting till someone gets that fear. What age to get fear? Is it 12 or something? I'm not sure what age you actually become fearful, but is that's obviously something that is. And also
the young ones, they are sponges. Anything you tell them, they remember. So it might not be that they'll be jumping up and down on someone's chest doing amazing CPR. It would be awful. They've not got that strength to do it. But actually, they could tell Grandad to do it on Grandma. Yeah. Actually, at Squirrels this week, we learned how to do it. Right, put your hands on Grandma's chest, push hard and fast, 1/3 of the chest depth.
Didn't actually have a grandma, though.
They can pass that on.
No. You didn't do like a real life.
No, we didn't do a grandma.
Just checking that didn't happen. And I think absolutely. I mean, that's kind of that education piece. I know you guys have been driving so much around. 1, engagement with the government, 2, engagement with young people particularly, and older generation, but young people, because that can then continue, this is a legacy. So I think, again, that different thinking, that it isn't just placing the defib, it's all of it that goes
everything
with it.
That comes everything
with it. And how do we make it so people are comfortable using it, but then also how do we look after it and all of that. So going back to what we were saying kind of at the beginning around running a charity can be quite challenging. what would you say has been the toughest part of what you've been doing at AED Donate?
Oh, very good question. I would say lots of it. It's the best job in the world, and I wouldn't change it for anything. I think it's that whole charity perception. It's that, you get the comments, oh, you're a charity to not do this or do that. Actually, it's much, much harder. Our accounts are fully audited, as you know, because you're a trustee, so you see those. There's a lot more to it. You can't just spend money when you want to spend money. There's approval processes. There's things in the background for sign off. It's public money effectively we're dealing with, whether that's through a grant, whether that's donated to us through a gift in a will or a legacy, or whether that's £5 in the shop till. We are effectively dealing with public money. I quite like it being a charity. I quite like, because it's transparent, because it's open, because it's honest, because everything is published, because there's sign off from not just me, there's a group of trustees that sit above me as well. I quite like that. I quite enjoy that openness, and this is what we're doing and why, or the challenge, the other end of, well, we don't think we should go down that route because of X, Y, and Z. So I quite enjoy that side. But I think, again, it's education. We've come back to it so many times. Sometimes it's that public perception of, oh, you don't do this or you don't do that. Actually, you really do. And if you delve into it, and somebody said to me, again, going back to the very early days of people not liking retail, I remember the Facebook comment, it was, oh, they're only going because they don't pay rates and they don't pay VAT and they don't do this. Actually, we do. We're just the same as anybody else. We're probably worse off because we have to fund an audit every year, and that's really costly.
And to that point, though, and I think I've asked you this before, I can't remember what you said, is you chose to be a charity rather than a business. It is still a charity, but what I mean is the way the differences between how the two work, different funding and things like that. So what was the reason that you decided it was going to be a charity, aside from what you've kind of said around, the auditing and things like that? But there's got to be a driver where you've gone, this is going to be charitable. I'm going to do this for the greater good, almost.
So year one, we were a business. And I think for me, it was that realization of turning people down on the phone because they wanted to fundraise. They wanted that support. They wanted that. Do you have any grants available? Do you have this? And being a business, you just can't do that. So we had quite extensive talks with the accountant and charities commission and et cetera, and the best route was, because again, we want that greater good, we want to raise money, we want to make it easy for people, we want to provide funding, and that's where the charitable element came in.
Wow. Probably final question would be, so you said what the toughest part of running AED Donate is.
Yep.
What's the best part of running it?
There is no better feeling than to get a text, an email, a phone call, whatever, to say, thank you, life saved, full stop, done. There's just no, I've got goosebumps now. There's no better. And even when it doesn't go to plan, you know that defib's been there, you know that they've had that support, you know they've had the best possible chance.
Yeah.
Even if they didn't survive.
Yeah.
It's that what if, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because if they didn't have that defib there, they go, oh, well, what if there was a defib? It could have done X, Y, and Z. But they've got that best chance.
Yeah.
Early on.
Yeah, definitely.
But there is no better feeling than that.
Yeah. Yeah, goosebumps, like you say. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you want to give your website again?
aeddonate.org.uk. It's a new website. Go and check it out.
So yeah, that's everything, Jamie. Thank you so much for being
thank you for having us.
First guest. It's been great to chat, and I've heard that story about the Jack who got saved, and it still doesn't fail to give me goosebumps as well. So amazing what you do, an amazing example of thinking differently, but also utilising that for the greater good.
Yeah.
So thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. Taught defibs all day long.
I know you can.
Thank you very much.